Welcome to the Diaper Bag Dad podcast. I am your host, Stephen Miles, and that is Stephen with a PH. Right here, we talk about the highs and lows of being a stay-at-home dad, the real nitty-gritty, the business of parenting. It's serious stuff, y'all. Kind of like a nice mixed bag of salad greens, or maybe a medley of fruits, or a cornucopia of cornucopias, a real clusterfuck. As we are tasked with doing the work of the universe, and that is raising the next generation. Hey, but don't worry, it's not all serious. There will be lots of cheese, some Gouda, some feta, a few sprinkles of Parmesan. Fun fact, I hate cheese. I like bingo cornball, but we'll get into that. So come, grab your favorite drinks, sit back with your guilty pleasure, kick up your feet, and stay a while. It'll be a little bit crazy, a whole lot of fun, and sequoia trees and Yosemite National Park size kind of love. Promise. Yeah, on today's show, we have our very first guest, John Parks Jr. Welcome to the show, my guy.
Man, appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. Let's jump in, man.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
jump in. Before we get to the questions, let's tell the people a little bit about you, man.
All right, let me see. I'm basically from the Valley.
Okay.
Fresno, California. Born in '82. We're in 2024. Obviously, it's been a lot that has changed over the times.
Yeah.
From the '90s to the early 2000s when I graduated to 2024, where I have a son and a daughter. My daughter's 23, my son's 21. So the things that they're going through right now is totally different from what I went through at 23, 21 years old.
Facts.
Yeah, just so much social media influence and things like that. But I think that me being 42 and them being 23, I don't think I'm too far out of touch with them. So being an early father that I was, I think that kind of helped me with today.
Okay.
Compared to, other situations where, sometimes people have kids a little later. So I'm in tune with what's going on. They can't throw nothing over my head.
I'm on that side of the fence.
Yeah, okay.
Having kids later.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm 41.
Right.
I'll be 42 in February. My oldest is 5 years, 7 months.
Got it.
Right. So being an older father, I still feel young enough where it's not a 20-year gap.
Yeah.
Right. Like you roughly, but.
Yeah.
It's 30 and some change.
Yeah.
But no, it's one of those things that I think it is important to stay connected, right?
Yeah.
And understand what they're going through. But I think the biggest thing is kind of paying attention to what's happening around them, right? Because outside of your home, there's just the social component of it, like life, right? Like when they're outside of your house, who's teaching them and where are they learning from? So I get it. I mean, it's just cool to stay plugged in. I think just paying attention to life in general, paying attention to what are certain trends, what are certain things that are important from a political perspective, what are things that are important from, economics, education, like where jobs shifting, what is the culture that is top down. Like obviously we're coming up in an election, so that's going to be a huge shift in kind of framing mentality, right?
It is.
So
it really is.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think staying plugged in and like you said, having if you're young enough to stay connected.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're not going to the club.
No,
hopefully
I'm not going to the club.
Hopefully you're not like, baby, I got you in a drink. We got a 2-for-1.
Right.
Hopefully you're not doing that. But
Right.
But yeah, okay. So so 2 kids, daughter, son, 23, 21.
Yeah.
So for you, what kicked off being a stay-at-home dad? Like what season of life was that for you?
Okay, so I have 2 children,
Right.
two different moms.
Okay.
I had my first child. She was born in 2001, graduated in 2000.
Okay. Congrats to her.
Yeah. Thank you. And then my second son was born in 2003.
Also, congrats on fatherhood again.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I know it's some time, but I wasn't there for that. But,
Yeah.
It's key. It's life changing.
Absolutely. It definitely was. So, I mean, just to get in depth with the first child, my parents were pretty upset. I mean, I just barely graduated high school in 2000, had a baby in 2001.
Okay. Was that a high school sweetheart? Was someone you met after? How did that?
It was
how'd that
a
kick off?
one-night stand.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. You're in that Hollywood movie, like rom-com too. Okay.
Yeah, so it was not ideal at the moment.
Makes sense.
At that time.
Makes sense.
Didn't tell my parents about the girl being pregnant. I didn't tell my parents until the day I was at the hospital and my daughter was coming out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that went over well, didn't it? Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. advice over the phone, and my mom kind of broke down and just she felt betrayed, you know.
So I was gonna ask, like, do you think, did you not tell them because you thought they wouldn't accept it, approve, support? Like, what was the thought process on not telling them? Because obviously, you know, that's one of those really key life moments, right? Like having a kid, somebody passing away, a new job relocation. Like that's one of those really major 3 life moments, and you're having it early. So how did?
I just knew for sure they weren't gonna approve. Especially, I mean, they don't. I mean, it was a one night stand. They didn't know nothing about the girl, and they didn't know nothing about. Well, at the time, I didn't even have a girlfriend. So you know what I mean. Just being out there in the streets, kind of, but still living at home, obviously.
Gotcha.
Not like street, but
yeah.
I just knew it wasn't gonna go over well because it would have been a little different and been like a girlfriend, somebody that they met, somebody that's coming over to the house,
got it,
having Sunday dinner,
somebody involved,
right?
Somebody that's proximity, like we've seen your face before.
Yeah. So I just knew I was embarrassed.
Okay.
You know, because obviously I was raised better than that. What I learned about parenting is, especially with my kids being older now, you can do what you can do as a parent, right? You can instill good morals, set boundaries.
For sure.
But each individual person in the end, no matter what, is gonna do what they're gonna do.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's you're a free thinking individual.
Yes.
Right. So I think at times we're governed by that, right? Like we have this box we put ourselves in because of morals, values, kind of the things that are like pillars and backbones for us, right? Like we're taught that. We're taught from somewhere, right? You learn it from whatever, again, inside the home, outside of the home.
Yep.
But there's a level of kind of restraint that operates within that space until you become an adult, and then you start exercising
your own.
Right, because it's you making your own thoughts and decisions and choices, and there's different experiences that are presented to you in life or that you find yourself in. Yes, you can rely on some of those things to help navigate.
Yes.
But ultimately, that's on you to make, right? Because other than that, you know, you might as well still be attached to your mom, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, you have your dad, obviously your dad's around, you have your dad on speed dial, like, and it's before I make a decision, like, I gotta call them.
Yeah.
And there's no growth
happen.
there. That's not life.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if it is, it's really sheltered. It's really limiting. Right. So, but yeah, I mean, that's a part of your story.
Yeah,
right?
It's part of my story.
It's part of who you are. What are some of the biggest differences between them? Because obviously they're same generation, right?
Right.
2 years apart.
2 years apart. Yeah.
But what are some of the biggest differences that you've seen in them? And is that related to your parenting style, adapting, shifting, changing? Like, walk us through that.
All right. So, you know, I can be open and honest on this
Oh,
podcast,
keep it a
right?
buck, please.
Okay.
No, this is a safe space. This vlog podcast is not popping off of hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers.
Right.
So
not yet.
Right? Not
yet.
Not yet. But nah, this is a space, man, to kind of let it breathe, man. And that's why I'm working on it myself. Like I'm working on it becoming that thing for us. Like I think one of the descriptions I put on one of my social media platforms for the podcast is like, this is a space for parents to figure our shit out so that we can be better for the next generation and specifically be better for our kids. So yeah, please let it all. We want all the smoke.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And before I answer your question, parenting, this is what you'll learn later.
Yeah.
Because your kids are little
please,
right now still.
Please drop some gems.
Parenting never stops.
Sure.
My kids are 23, 21, still asking me questions, still giving them advice.
Okay.
Still helping them out financially here and there.
Are they in the house? Are they gone?
My daughter lives in Texas.
Okay. Texas.
With her mom. They both moved. Her mom was out here.
Okay.
Her mom moved to Texas maybe, I want to say 2 years ago.
Okay.
So my daughter followed her.
Okay.
And my son lives with me.
Okay, so son lives with you.
Yep.
Daughter's in Texas, 2 years removed from the Valley.
Yep.
Is that the last time you saw her? Like physically in person? Okay.
Yes. But you know, we talk not as much as I should be talking to her.
Okay.
Just to keep it a buck.
Okay.
And we went through some growing pains. But we'll get back to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the difference between my son and daughter is I got my daughter when she was 8 years old. I got custody of her in 2013. Yeah, I know I got custody of both of them.
Okay. So court, you had to go to court. This is a whole
this
whole
was
thing.
a whole drawn out court.
So I did recall that. I did remember you mentioning that, and I do remember me saying that is rare. That is rare that in the legal system in the United States,
Yes.
fathers get custody of the kids.
Not just one.
Two.
Two.
So
two different
so
moms.
yeah, like two different moms in custody on situation at both
under my
situations.
roof.
Okay. Well, I mean that's big. So obviously you were doing something right, for in the eyes of the law.
Yes.
For that to play itself out. So good on you for that.
Yeah.
Because we know the law is not the greatest.
You're right.
At really, kind of protecting us.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I still have my moments driving in the car, and when I see black and white going that way or behind me or pulling out or looking in the so it has not been kind to us.
No.
There's definitely some PTSD around
Tell
that.
me about
So again,
it.
kudos to you for being able to get custody of your kids, because that's again, I know, like honestly, like in my life so far, that's actually the first I've heard of that.
Absolutely.
That's actually the first I've heard of that. So that's big.
You might have heard of maybe some guys getting custody of maybe two kids by the same mom, maybe because
Well, no, I haven't. No, I mean it's been joint. It hasn't been custody. Like you're saying, like 100%. Like this is
they live with
me. I am that guardian. I am that person's recognized, obviously biologically, but obviously mandated. So no, this is literally the first I've ever heard of it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I got my daughter when she was 8 years old.
Okay.
Got my son when he was 6 years old.
Okay.
At the time when my daughter, and I met my wife, 2005 I met my wife.
Okay.
But, at that time, she was my girlfriend, obviously. In 2005, my son was 2, my daughter was 4. At the age of 4, she was pretty out there already. She's seen a lot living with her mom.
Okay.
Like, I remember me and my wife, then girlfriend at the time, picked her up. I think my wife had some money, like, on the front console of the car, right?
Okay.
For whatever reason. But, you wouldn't think a 4-year-old gonna steal the money.
Oh, no, that wasn't anywhere I thought the story was going.
No, I'm just saying to the audience, you wouldn't think that.
No.
So we get to wherever stop we was getting to, and my wife was like, man, where's the money at the time? She was like, it was right here. And I was like, oh no. But I know my daughter. You know what I mean? Like me and her were just barely together. My daughter, she's kudos to her, but she changed a lot. Like she's, an adult woman now, 23 years old.
Yeah.
In a different space, still have growing to do, just like we all do as humans, right? We all got more growing to do. But anyways, to make a long story short.
No, daily.
Yeah.
Daily.
Exactly.
We can get better from this.
Yes.
Right, from sitting here in this space talking to each other. So it's daily growth, man.
Yeah. So to make a long story short, my daughter swiped the money without both of us knowing.
You said it's 4 years old?
4 years old.
4 years old.
We patted her, I patted her down because, that was my girlfriend at the time. Like, she don't need to be involved in that.
Got it.
Like, hey, where's that money at? Couldn't find the money. Eventually, she broke down and told me where the money was at.
Okay.
It was tied up in her hair.
Wow.
It was like,
wow.
Yeah, it was like tucked in there.
Wow. Okay.
So she had to been able to swipe the money.
No, right.
From the back seat.
Right. And had this foresight to be like, if by any chance somebody were to, wow.
4 years old.
Okay.
4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she could have been on like some queen pen type stuff. Like this would have been like the foundation of like her empire.
Yeah.
Like, because her brain was putting all this together.
So
she was fast. That's fast. That's like fast thinking. So
man, a lot of adults couldn't even think of that.
No. Well, I'm a baldy, so I can't hide it anyway. It just be like just. Wasn't thinking that, but no, that's okay. So without getting into obviously the depths of that, because obviously we're here for make sure we're structuring the framework for our kids. Mm-hmm. What was the evolution for her? How did she and you obviously how did you how did life help course correct her path?
Oh man, just life in general. Just like I said, she's still growing.
Yeah. Right.
She's definitely still improving. During those times, I mean, we all tried. Like I said, I grew up in a 2-parent household. I didn't mention that in the introduction. So
I gathered because you did mention mom and dad based off of the one night stand.
Oh
turning
yeah,
into,
absolutely.
So I picked it up from that, but no, you didn't specifically say. But I was able to draw my conclusions with that. But
absolutely. Okay. So grew up in a 2-parent household. So I had raising my daughter was not easy. So luckily I had some support from mom and dad.
Okay. Brothers and sisters for you?
Yeah, I have man, my family is like really big and mixed. So,
But your household though, like your specific household, growing up with mom and dad, did you have? There's more brothers and sisters in the house with you at the same time.
it was we're all like 10 years apart. So when I was 10, I had a baby sister.
Okay.
Come in, and when I was 10, I had older siblings that were like in their 20s already.
Got it.
It's weird. We're all
okay.
It's nothing like 2, 3, 4 years.
No.
Right.
Decades. Okay.
So honestly, to be honest, of course we all love each other, but there's no like really tight bond.
No, and it can be.
Yeah,
it can be.
So far apart.
No, I mean sometimes even if it's like 5, right, 5 to 7, and that because you're hitting your kids. Your kids are developing at a different pace, right? So there's different milestones, different brain development. What they're latching onto, what they're able to kind of decode and decipher, critical analysis, reading levels. It's wide.
Yeah,
because all that's happening at a very short amount of time. It's long for us when you're in it, right? But like it's happening at a short amount of time in the grand scheme of life. But those gaps are huge. So when you're saying 10 years, obviously, I mean, if it's a 10-year gap, so your baby sister being 10, you're 20.
Yeah.
Right. So you're more like an uncle.
I'm already.
You're more
like
an uncle. You know what I mean? Like in that gap. So you're just like dropping jewels and gems. And I know everybody's family is different.
Right.
But the proximity in age allows, I think, parents and that to kind of corral that development, right? And it's recent enough to be like, hey, they started walking at this age. They start walking at this age. They sleep regression at this time, right? First word at this time, drawing and motor skills at this time. Like you can recall it recently.
Yeah.
But when you have this large gap, it's a huge reset, right? I remember when we bought our second daughter home, and we had to like recalibrate our brains on changing diapers. You know what I mean? Because like we were in the toddler phase transitioning, and then our oldest was so advanced for her, like her development was good. Like she was in her own room, like early 3. Like her own bed, sleeping in her own twin bed, like having her own space.
Now you gotta
like
hit the reset button.
Yeah, and then so she's like said she's going to be 6 in December.
Yeah.
But when she's in her own room and her development there was a point in time, I want to say like late 4 years, early 5, like, hey, I don't think I need the baby cam anymore.
Yeah.
Like what?
Right.
What do you mean? Like you can't watch you anymore? Make sure you're good. She's like, no, like I don't need you watching me. Like I'm fine. Like I got this.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's how advanced she is. And so on top of the fact of like the age development, there's just the individual's development.
Yes.
So again, it sounds like your daughter was really quick, really fast. And
it was her environment.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't get her until she was 8. So I would just visit her and.
Right. So again, she's lived. If we go from 4 to 8, obviously there's a lot more development in that speed of what's happening for her to respond to what the environment is. And I think that's kind of really crucial and key on like just the protection and the safe space that we give to our kids, right? Which I mean, ultimately, you just hope, like real talk, man, like you just hope you're not fucking it up, And there's not a whole lot of post checks on that, right? Like I don't have a group of like 5, 6, 7 friends that I'm like on, a Zoom chat of like, hey, bro, like, hey, they did this, like, are y'all going through this? Like, I don't bounce ideas off of anybody other than my wife.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, it's just she and I, and that's really tough to know that you're doing it right?
Yeah.
Like, because you don't know only into the reflection of outside looking in. So when your kid's at school and then there's certain behavioral things or, they're responding like, you got a great kid. Like she hit honor roll or she made student of the month, right? Like that's the only time we're like, yeah, okay, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you do not know.
Confirmation.
You don't know. You have no idea of how it's playing out other than the reflection of what people see.
Yeah.
And then they cast that back to you, right? Yeah. They're so polite. They're so mannered. Like when I take my kids to the gym, when I'm getting my workout in, I have them, off to the side, iPad, drawing something with markers. So if they're not on an iPad, they're drawing some pictures, having their snack, or they're just literally sitting down in a corner, like watching me work out. Or they'll walk up to me, or I'll call them close to me and have them by me and make sure that I don't hit them in the head with a weight.
Yeah.
But like people are like, wow, my kid was here. Like
they'll be running all over the
place. So then I'm like, okay, like we're doing it right. Like, You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm like, we got it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's I think it's just really about, again, like the intentionality of parenting, right? And then again, the environment that you put them in, the safe space that you create, right? Like you give them enough latitude to try to figure it out. Because if you continue to coddle and baby them, then they won't develop their own critical analysis skills. They will always be dependent on you. And yeah, that's cool for a season.
Yeah.
But it's not safe when they're adult, right? Because they have to know what's happening around them and to decipher good from bad, right?
Yeah.
Like, are they in a dangerous element, or, the relationships that they choose to kind of, revolve around them, and, the people they invite into their lives. Like, it has to be really, and building secure kids, right? Like where they're, you try to minimize the insecurity so that they're not looking for something or falling for anything. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I mean, having the gaps with the age of your siblings, I mean, I'm sure you had to grow up fast, right? Because you had to figure it out, right? You had to figure it out for yourself, because there's nobody to bounce it off for you at 10, right? It's not like you're going to the next one who's like
13,
come on,
I'm
man.
10,
like, I mean, really bouncing, like, I ain't got it. I really want to hear what your problems are.
Right,
right. I don't really want to talk about it. Like,
exactly.
I got the other thing I'm dealing with over here. So, man, that's interesting for sure. So between both your kids, did your parenting style change? Like, because obviously from a custody perspective, between, you said 8 and 6?
8 and 6 is when I got custody.
So between custody and then adapting your parenting style, seeing what their needs are and kind of assessing that, like, did that shift for you, like, on how you were able to, like, speak and reach your daughter versus speak and reach your son?
Well, man, that's why, I don't know if I can rewind time when I changed my methods of how I treated both of them. But my son was really easy to raise.
Okay.
I mean, he was the one that was getting me all that confirmation when I would go pick him up from school.
Okay.
Oh, your son is so well-mannered. He's so calm. He's so mature for a 6-year-old. Like, all the way until he got out of high school, really. That was always a narrative about him. I would like for you to meet him one day. He's really well-mannered.
I would like to be too.
Yeah.
Where did you graduate high school?
Clovis West.
Oh.
C-Dub.
Class of 2000.
Graduate.
No, you Edison for you, right?
Yeah, Edison for me.
Class of 2000, Clovis West.
Yeah.
So, like,
And he's 21,
yeah.
Clovis West.
Yeah. Okay, he was a golden eagle. Did he play sports?
Football, baseball at
Okay.
Clovis West.
Football and baseball.
But when he was coming up, he played everything.
Okay.
Track, basketball.
Okay. Does he still play now, or is it recreational? Or is it, no? Okay.
He's thinking about joining a recreational, like, softball league.
Okay.
He's having a baby. His baby.
Oh.
A here. Yeah.
Okay.
He'll be a young dad.
I feel like I should put, like, a breaking news sticker right there. Like, he's having a baby.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Well, congrats on that.
Be about to be a grandpa.
That's what's up,
so
man.
that's a whole nother learning.
I bet.
Chapter.
I mean, because
going
that's another pod episode.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
because then
I can let you know.
I
later.
mean, you'll be a 43-year-old granddad. Man.
I wasn't comfortable at first with that.
If I'm looking, I don't even see not nary a grape in your beard, fam. Like what, 1 or 2? I mean, I'm sprinkling. Mine's came in early, and that's genetic, right? Like the hair receded, the grays come in. They're on both sides of my family. I can't run from that. Genes are genes, but okay.
Yeah, about to be a grandpa.
Okay.
Man. So it's exciting now. It's getting closer.
Okay.
His baby's due September 28th or something.
Okay, that's awesome, man.
He's having a
that's
baby
awesome.
girl named Zavea.
Zavea.
Yeah,
Zavea.
Mm-hmm.
With a Z?
With a Z.
Zavea. Okay, so she's gonna be the last one here. Like
right.
Call.
Yep.
Because I'm the last M.
Okay.
Right. Miles is MY.
Yep.
Right. I'm the last M. There's never been anyone that's outdone me on roll call because it's MYLES. Right. So I'm good there.
Right.
But okay, that's what's up, man.
Yeah.
No, that's a huge congrats. I mean,
I appreciate.
I mean, I'm far off from that. Like again, I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, almost 6, almost 3.
Yeah.
I'm far away from that. But that's the extension of the family. But just the thought process. Again, when we're talking parenting, there's a different thing for grandparents, right? Because now it's you not raising your kid's kid, right? Because that's your kid's kid.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that if
him.
you're giving them that space, like you let them parent the way that they're going to parent. At least that's how I see it now. Again,
and I told him that too. I'm like, like when I'm watching your kid, hey, if you don't want your kid to have McDonald's, I'm not gonna be one of those grandparents to be like, oh,
hit those fries out.
Right, right.
Back fries.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna respect his wishes. You know.
Yeah. Hey,
I didn't get that.
So, well, I mean, just real quick. I'm sorry, I got to interject. So, yeah, shade to McDonald's. Like they dip their fries in sugary water to make them hell of addicting.
Yes.
And then they give it to you for 99 cents.
Yes.
And we wonder why, fam. We wonder why the obese rate is what the obese rate is. And
and they don't care.
We wonder why there's diabetes and heart issues. We wonder why, right? Like, because again, that's just like I don't see my wife, my family. We're pescatarian, right? So there's no meat, right? Really seafood. Good. I think the furthest I would ever go. Obviously, people that know me know this is vegetarian. I love eggs too much, so I can't get rid of my eggs.
Yeah, I had some this morning, as a matter of fact. So,
man.
Yeah.
So I'm so.
Got out of eggs.
Eggs are bomb.
Yeah.
Like if anybody out there want to sponsor me with eggs. I love me my egg whites.
Right.
High source of protein. But no, I mean I don't see any vegetarian, pescatarian, vegan 99-cent menu. You know what I mean? Like, so if society, government, life, United States really wanted us to be healthy, I think they would make really, really great healthy food affordable. Yes. Like, you should be taxed at eating the crap, right? Like drinking the sodas,
I love that.
The fries, like you know what I mean? Like the high fatty foods, the saturated fats, like the cholesterol driving, artery clogging.
Exactly. You should be taxed for that.
That should be high. Like, not like, hey, I'm gonna go get me some a burger and fries and like a 96-ounce soda.
Yeah. All for $4.
$3.99.
Right.
So yeah, man, it's it's that. I mean, again, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
I'm digressing. Yes, shade. You mentioned fries. I throw a joke in there, but then it just made me think about it. Also, I didn't text my wife that I made it safe. Hey, babe, this podcast is being recorded and it's going to get edited, so you're not going to see it for quite some time. But I made it to CMAX safely. I love you.
Nice.
I got here on time. My bad.
Right.
So here's a question, man. And this is something that during our pre-prep it popped up just because again of who my guest is, and I think for anybody that wants to be a good host and put together good content, it is really knowing who your audience is, but also tailoring the conversation to the person you're speaking to. So I could not ask this question. Do you see, and obviously I'll have my 2 cents about it, but do you approach fatherhood differently as a dad versus being a black dad? And let that kind of sink in for a second. Do you know what I mean? Like you're a father, but you're also a black father in the United States of America, right? And we've seen so much from pre-COVID, right? We just know what life is on what's reported and what's not reported in the media. But having conversations about safety, and not safety just from like walking from your house to school, not safety just when you're driving your car. We're talking about like safety, like abuse of power from law enforcement type stuff, right? Like the fact that there's more melanin, so they're perceived differently, right? Yeah. When you go to the store, when you're in a school environment, and depending on what school they go to, what is the percentage of people of color or people of a global majority versus not? So have you approached parenting? Do you approach parenting any different from being a dad, just being who you are in your identity versus being a black dad?
Yes, I certainly do.
Okay.
I certainly do in certain aspects. For the most part, I just try to be, like the core of me, I try to like not even think about color, right? For the most part. But there's situations where, I have a black son.
Real quick, I think it is important to think about color because I can't change what I look like. Right. I think it's important. I think that was one of the PC answers that we used to give based of growing up in our generation, being Gen Y.
Right.
That it made other people feel comfortable for us to say that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
it's ingrained.
Yeah, I mean, saying I don't think of color, I don't see color, like it's very vivid. When someone sees me,
right,
they can identify aspects of my ethnic.
Yeah, it's just
my ethnic history. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I wanted to throw that in there because of that. I think that's important because language is key.
For sure.
And the writer in me has to call that out because.
Well, should I rephrase it?
I think if you want to, but I just wanted to chime in there, like just real quick on that because it's one of those things that like it went from like, if we go backwards, right? It went from like being degraded and dehumanized, and the N word has its different facets. And then it got acceptable to say colored.
Yeah.
And then it got acceptable to say like African American and black, and is black offensive. So again, language is key,
that's
right?
a whole nother.
No, right.
I'm
saying because it's key. So again, like I wanted to throw that in there because I think it's important for us to call those things out, because again, it's coming from different generations on making other people feel comfortable with our blackness.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead though. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I would look at it like, I know exactly what you mean. I'm thinking you're meaning this. This is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, we would want people not to look at us or judge us just based off our skin color.
Right.
But I'm saying the way I operate, I try not to look at color. Me. But I know I'm definitely intelligent to know that any room I walk into that ain't like my people in there, I'm getting looked at.
Sure.
Right off the top. So I know that. But I'm just saying that how I operate is, and how I raise my kids, is to try not to look at color. But on the flip side, I let them know and be aware that people are looking at you by the way you look, if that makes sense.
I mean,
you know what I mean? I try not to look at color.
Okay.
I don't care about color. Mm-hmm. It's the other people that care about a color. I'm talking about the other race, if that makes sense.
Again, another key word, other ethnicities. Because race were human.
Okay.
That became a thing when it became a thing, again, to just make something opposition and make something controllable, right? So when you're thinking about different cultures, there's the influence of saying, how can we ingrain a systemic way to oppress people? Mm-hmm. And you make them not human. Dehumanization is an actual thing. It's an actual method, right? You make them the other.
Yes.
You make it an archetype, and you make them whoever you're trying to tear down and control and oppress. You break them down by characteristics, right? Which is why, I was a film major in Santa Barbara, so one of the most pivotal films was The Birth of a Nation by D.W. Griffith. Mm-hmm. He couldn't be, from a film perspective, he's the father of racism. So those were the terms coon and Tom and pickaninny and mammy. That was the space that was introduced in, right? So all black people desire white women, right? That's the whole King Kong thing, right? Like when you watch that, King Kong wanting and carrying her around, and we were just pursuing and we're angry,
just messed up in the head over a white woman.
For sure, right? And that's what we desire, right? So we have to keep them separated, we have to lock them up, right? And kill them, right? And maim them, degrade, like that's where all that came into play. So race, we're the human race, right? And
that's facts.
Yeah, so we and again in the United States, because they're a master class of racism, that's where we check boxes on forms. Right. When we're filling stuff out, that's where the census kicks in. Right. Of how to categorize and put it in certain spaces. Right.
Right.
So.
No, I appreciate you correcting me on that, and you're right. We are the human race. So like
I can be racist against a dog. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's different than a human that has more melanin production. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? We are the same. I mean, same but different. Yeah. And I get your approach. With
I don't try to look at.
Yeah, no, I understand
but I know
it. I understand it because
me.
it's a way again of just respecting the next human being. So I understand the angle taken on that.
Yes.
I do understand. The other side of that is, again, walking into a room, whether you're cultured, not cultured, whether, you have, 100 M's in the bank or you got, 2578 in the bank, like you're still being broken down and tore down because again, these are spaces that certain people don't want us in.
Yes.
No matter what you do or where you went to school or what zip code you grew up in, it doesn't matters not. For some people, right? And that's the conversation. I mean, that's the thing that kind of keeps certain people in certain boxes. And I understand the approach to break outside of that box.
Yeah.
Right?
But be aware at the same time.
Yeah, be aware that the box exists.
I'm
be aware that
aware.
the box exists for sure.
Right.
And that it has more than four sides.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it's square.
Right.
It's square shaped. but it is 3D.
Yep.
But no, I think it's really about, again, kind of approach for me. And I think I struggle with even returning this question back to myself.
Okay.
Because I am so damn intentional and purposeful with how I raise my kids. Right? So I know who I am. I know they have a black dad. I know they have a dad. Do they see a black dad? No.
Right.
At some point in time, they will.
Yep.
Why? Because the world is going to tell them that, right?
That's facts.
The world is going to introduce that to them of saying, hey, so your mom is this and your dad is this. So that's going to happen, right? So going back to the food conversation, being pescatarian, our kids are not going to know what a hamburger tastes like in our house. Make sense?
Yeah.
We're not introducing that.
But the world's going to.
That doesn't mean, right?
World's going to tell them what it tastes like.
Yeah, like, hey, try this,
Yeah.
right? Try this porterhouse steak. You know, it's tenderloin, right? It's
juicy.
They're going to... Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, there's this natural affinity that is discussed right now because, again, of our home. Like, we do not eat, land animals. We eat sea animals, and at some point in time, again, we may change that. At one point in time, my 5-year-old was like, I don't want to eat any more animals. I don't want any seafood. Basically, she's saying, I just want to be a vegetarian.
Plants.
Right. And then we were like having that conversation, and it was because she applied the same principle that we applied to meat to sea animals, right? So we talked about kind of forward thinking. Like my 5-year-old at 4 said this to us, and we were like, wow, okay.
Right.
Respect. And we're like, you're sure?
Yeah.
Like, because we're cooking, and that doesn't mean that she stomps on our hands and our feet if we make the decision too. So we explain that as well. I mean, but these are the kinds of conversations we're having with our oldest daughter. Right. But no, going back to the question. So the world's going to introduce that concept to our kids. Yeah, right. Yeah. It's going to be different in different spaces, right? Like if we were to be in Europe, for example, or be in Spain.
You been? Been out of the country?
I've been when I went to visit my wife on her island. My wife is from Gran Canaria, Las Palmas is the islands that are owned by Spain. They're off the northwest coast of Africa, so where you see Algeria, Morocco, and then when you get to the body of water, those would be the Canary Islands. So I have, in that regard, I haven't done a whole hell of a lot outside of that.
Right. I've never been out the country, so.
Yes, and again, that's another thing. Again, from a cultural perspective, like how do we get past our block? Like I remember visiting my friend. He lived in Baldwin Hills, and then getting off the 10 freeway and hitting a couple of the side streets, and just see people like pushing shopping carts, and I'm like, this is all they'll ever know. Like all they'll ever know is this corner. You know what I mean? And they don't know what the road. So it keeps everything small.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It keeps the mind small.
Yep.
And it keeps the dream small.
Yep.
Right? Like how can you advance and be forward thinking and then go outside of the framework if you don't know? I mean, that was the road is round, or we're gonna fall off because it's flat, right? Like that was the thought process. Like the mind is restrictive, and that's knowledge and education, right? Yeah. Whether it's formally and structured or whether it's taught by living life and like in real world experience, right? Yeah. But yeah, so I do not approach it as a black father. I am a black father, but I'm not carrying a flag with my daughters of saying, you're a black girl and this is what it is. Like it's not this thing, like, from that perspective, right? And I have girls, right? So even the world is gonna look at them differently from bling. I guess I mixed bing and black together.
They go together.
Yeah. New word, bling. Right. BLEING.
I love it.
So it's going to be a thing outside of our home. It is not me saying, hey, daughters, you have to approach it this way and be, again, guarded and defensive when somebody's having this identifier. You just embrace everything that you are, because that's just a part of them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everyone's mixed. Like if you did a DNA test, I'm sure you would see that there's some.
Yeah, ain't nobody pure.
No. Like I'm 51% Nigerian. Then there's some little bit of Ghana, little bit of, it was like Wales. There's some other things in there that doesn't make it that, but obviously phenotypically I present as black, right? I present as African, African descent. So I own that. Do my daughters? No, because their mom is German and Indian, and in that German and Indian breakdown, Indian is Pashtun, right? And we can kind of go Persian there,
Middle East, right?
And kind of go Persian there, and then if you go German, there's Italian, Scandinavian, but then there's some other things that's there, right? So she's like, so all that said to say, but and again, if our kids phenotypically presented as African and being here in the United States, then that's a go-to for other people, right? I want them to love everything about themselves, right? Because they are everything that is in their genetic makeup. And I think we have done a disservice because we've been taught it, that if you have a drop of black, you're black, right? As if they're supposed to shun and reject everything else, right? That was the paperback test back in the day, right? Like, are you lighter or darker than the paperback, right? You are black, right? Like, and just that's just how it was, right? Like that was just
that was like our parents' generation.
Yeah, that's just the breakdown. I mean, my grandmother's 1927, born in Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what it is,
right?
And but then that pervades, because then that's just all you pass down. So you just pass along this trauma generation after generation, and at some point in time you have to like open it up and expand the thought process, right? I am a black father, I'm a black man, I'm both living in America, right? And I know how the world views me. I know what I present. I know I'm more than just my melanin, right? But do others see me that way? Not necessarily. And that's just across the board, because again, that's just what was built into the identity and culture of the United States, right? Like, that's why it's systemic. That's why we have systemic oppression. And that's why when I asked this question, I had adjectives like the stigmas associated with black fathers: absent, disengaged, raising, parenting kids with new families, right? Broken homes, raised by single moms and grandmothers. My situation. Limited to poor male role models, limited options for financial means, being products of the prison industrial complex. Like, these are the things to deconstruct the black family. You know what I'm saying? And black fathers specifically, right? Which is why there's different years associated to a black male catching a case and a white male catching a case for the same thing.
Same crime.
Right, right. So then that became a thing, because it pervades, whether you get locked up, you get convicted, it's on your record, you come out, you try to, get reformed, and try to assimilate back into society. And the same thing I think we do for the prison industrial contract for people of color. Prison industrial complex for the people of color is a very similar vein of what we do to people that have served in the military. When they come back, and there's a lot of things that's happened to them because they've seen a lot of things that people should not see, right?
Take care of them.
How does their brain process that? You're just dealing with nothing but trauma and trauma and trauma. You know what I mean? And how do we get past that? And a lot of things are not in place to help you do that, right? Which is why we can you broke your knee. Are you okay? Right? Yeah, crutches. Right, you're walking, but not a lot of people can see. Oh, you broke your brain. Something isn't happening up there, but people can't see that externally, right? So then they don't know, and then they just look at you and they cross the street, because other things are happening within your lobes, trying to process information or reliving things that are just deeply jarring, right? So I asked that question because of that, right? Because again, there's the experiences that we have, right? And what makes us who we are, right? And then again, from a parenting perspective, how do we shape that, and how do we bring that into context for our kids in this world, and especially in the United States, right? Because in this country, there's very specific things that we do to people that look like you and I, and a lot of it is very unkind.
Well, one thing I pass down to my kids, particularly to my son, because he was with me more than my daughter was, but what I passed down to him was passed down to me.
What's that?
That is, remember how I said I don't try to look at color? Because I really don't. But on the flip side, I'm aware that people look at my color.
Yeah.
But what I passed down to them and what was passed down to me is this: you're black. You're in the workforce.
Yeah.
You got to work harder than other cultures. And I believe that's facts, because...
That's the black tax.
That's the what?
The black tax.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the phrase. Yeah, you had to...
I believe
you had to work
true,
harder for less or work harder for the same. right?
Either or.
So like being in the same, that's what it was. Like, so if we work the same job, same vertical, and you're a black male, I'm a white male, or something other than being a black male.
If he slacks off, I can't slack off.
Right.
You know?
But again, just even being seen, right? Like, see, just even being seen and accepted, for the work that you do, and not just saying you're overworked, right? And or just to get the same share. That's the whole diversity, equity, inclusion conversation, right? Like, what's the equity? Like, is shit fair, right? Like, do you have the same opportunities and the same tools and resources to reach that, right?
Right.
Or is your ladder a little shorter, right? This one is a higher height, and you got this rinky-dink one that only gets you to 6 feet when you need to make it to 8, right? And they have a ladder that's 12, right? So that's. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, no, but I mean, we know there's different opportunities that are afforded,
right,
and given and granted.
Yes.
I think that's why if we stick with basketball, I guess for a second, I guess that's why that's the whole conversation on Bronny James and his dad, because we're talking nepotism. We're talking like the ability of like this individual set it up. For it to work out this way. But why is everybody mad? I mean, it's the same thing that happens in any other field, sport, vertical. I mean, you have a C-suite executive. Yeah, he's gonna put his son or his daughter in a game for sure. Like, I do the same thing. Like, how can I, and why should I not set up an easier path for my kids, right? Like, if I had to grind, if I had to hustle, like, they shouldn't have to grind and hustle the same way, right? I saw something that recently on Mike Tyson, since we're staying with sports. Like, Mike Tyson was like, having a kid that wants to box, and he's like, why? For what? Like
I think I heard.
I grew up having to do this. Like, I had to fight, defend, scratch, claw to get that. Like, I had to be in there to defend my life.
Right.
Like, I had to grind this way because of my circumstances. Right. But you don't. Again, you go to a private school and you have to wear a suit. Like, what is your struggle?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's different. So anyway, like for me, no, I do the same thing for my kids. Like, but it's their choice. Like, I would set it up. They would have the opportunity to. It's on them if they want to. And even in my kids' book, like, and even a description of the pod, like, I say, hey, I'm drawing, creating blueprints for my kids to follow, retrace, or redraw. It's on them. Like, here's an opportunity. They do with that what they will. Right? Like, they have to develop what they're passionate about and what their interest level is and how hungry they want it. Like, would I make it easier for them if they went into a similar field or a similar direction or similar path of wanting to be a creative or wanting to be a writer or a filmmaker or an artist or a content, creator? Absolutely. Like, I would definitely give them the game, but that's no different than the experiences you share with your kids, because you're passing along your lessons and knowledge for them to get it earlier, for them to see further. That's the point.
I never looked at it that way.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Like, my kid can stand on my shoulders and they have a
until they can
wider view. Like, that's life. That's what it's supposed to be. So even if, there's the two, white men on the end of the bench, if there's opportunities that are taken away from other individuals that again don't look like them.
Right.
I get that exists in every avenue, in every arena, in every vertical, in every space. So
you have to be better though.
I think that's what. So for me, yes and no. I mean, I used to think that way, like, but it's more of like, let me find my lane. Find what I do well. I am uniquely qualified that nobody can remove that. And I used to say this to myself, and I used to say this to people, and it's still my kind of like my own mental thought process. Like, get the material, design, build the lane, do the same thing for the car, put the car in a lane, that vehicle is in its own lane. I've created my own vehicle in my own lane. You cannot take me out of something that I've created, my vehicle in my own lane. You have to compensate me for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I'm uniquely qualified for that, then nobody can remove me from that. So that's been my thought process. Like, I have to find what I do well. Right. And then there's nobody, I don't care what you look like or where you're from, that you can. You would have to pay me for what I built. Right. So that's where I'm at in my mentality. But then again, that's just my own personal, development. That's my own development. Like, that's my own journey, my own growth, and how I look at it and shift the way my perspective is.
Okay. So we're in two different lanes, and I'm in, retail, grocery business, and I really love it too.
That's how we connected.
Yeah,
that's how we connected.
yeah,
One
absolutely.
random day
That's
of us
crazy,
shopping
right?
at Sprouts.
Yep.
Yeah, walked
And I
in.
haven't
I was
seen you
like,
for
oh,
years.
man. I mean,
Years.
we connected. So yeah, I met you my second year in Fresno.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, eighth grade. Like eighth grade at Kastner.
No, yeah.
Eighth grade at Kastner. I met you my second year
Yes, sir.
being here. Like when I moved to the Valley from Compton.
Yep.
Seventh grade, I went to Sierra.
Was that like the last time we seen each other? We had to run into each other a couple more times.
What was your path after Kastner?
So after Kastner, I went to Washington Union.
Okay. For some reason, I had in my head you went to Clovis West for a second and then left. Never. So you went to Union. Okay. So then you graduated with. You were in the year of Deshaun Stevenson.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I remember playing not playing. I was a bench rider, scrub myself. If we're talking into the bench. Like the first time I touched sports, in my entire life was my freshman year in high school at Clovis West. And I played football. Late start.
It's a late start.
You're being kind. Right. You're being kind. Late start. I played football, or I was on the team.
Right.
I had pads.
Right.
Yeah, I played. I was on the team, football.
Yep.
And then my junior year, I wanted to play basketball, so then I went that route.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah,
and then that was like being team manager, getting it on. I think that was just like my persistence, like my gumption, because it's not like I had any basketball skills because I never played basketball my entire life.
Right.
Like, so if we're trying to go against like contrast, like growing, it's weird, right? Like if we unpack it, like being from Compton and then coming to the Central Valley. And then the path, right, since we just had a conversation of kind of about ethnicities and race, then creating your own path, like it wasn't sports and athletics for me. Like I didn't grow up like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That wasn't my lens. Like I remember growing up wanting to be like an architect and what else did I want to be? I can't remember right now, but I remember growing up that because there was something that I saw that was different from being in different homes when my grandmother was an au pair, like in visiting her in affluent neighborhoods, like all throughout, all throughout Southern California, right? Like that was my thought process because I knew where I came from, where I lived, right? And then seeing something different and then going to schools that shaped my mind that way, right? So coming here was the first time, coming to Fresno and high school specifically was the first time ever.
Culture shock.
Athletics. Yeah, culture shock for sure.
Yeah.
But specifically athletics. Like I said, that wasn't my route. You know what I mean? So.
And Wahlberg was there at that time too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah, he's at Fresno State too, as a matter of fact.
No, I know, and big ups to Tyrone. Shout out Tyrone.
Oh, yeah,
Tyrone Jackson.
Yeah,
hopefully he becomes the head coach.
Yeah.
At my old high school. That'd be dope. That'd be full circle moment, I guess.
That would be dope.
But yeah, no, it's so getting again, finding kind of the spaces that are yours. I had to figure that out, and that's the same thing I do for my kids. Like and I want them to do that for their kids as well.
Right.
Just you provide opportunities based off your experiences, based off your knowledge level, and you want them to not have the same time frame to reach what they're pursuing, right? Like what they want from life. So you're going to give them information. You're going to give them a leg up so that they can make it there. If it took you 20, they can get there in 5. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the pathway for on how I see it anyway.
I didn't think about it like that, honestly. So I bet you if you did a poll, it'd be like split down the middle. So I like your thought process on that.
Yeah.
Because with the Bronny James thing, I was more leaning towards the other side, like he shouldn't even be in the league. You know what I mean? That's the side I'm leaning on. And
gotcha.
then you got people like on the side you're leaning on, like, well, if his dad has the means to get him there, it's a no-brainer.
100.
Right. But I'm still on that other side only because because LeBron wouldn't have made it if he was average like that. But LeBron was a beast in high school, so obviously he got to.
You got cachet, man. But I mean, what's that old school? Early 2000s? You paid the cost to be the boss, or is that later than that? I don't know, but I don't know. It's some.
But that's the case. Then Michael Jordan's sons should have been in there, but he probably didn't push for him.
But that's if they. But again, they're still talking generational, fam. Like we're talking generation, like, and we're talking again. We have a gap in our kids. Like again, your kids are Gen Z, mine's are Gen Alpha,
right?
And it's just different. Like when you grow up, like I mean, I'm inspired by the generation, like where it got me to the point where I'm able to do this. I'm able to sit in front of you, in front of a mic, work on my camera presence, put all that together. Like, this was not anywhere in my wheelhouse. Like I'm
10,
a
15
writer.
years ago,
I'm a writer. I'm
right.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like this, behind my screen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
being like the struggled, tortured writer. You know what I mean? Like trying to find my route. Like being a creative in my brain, thinking like, oh, that's fire. Like
Right.
everybody's gonna love that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I had to figure it out. Like I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have anybody putting their arm around me of saying like, hey, Steven, this is your path. Like I had to figure it out.
That's a good point. But if you,
and that's the grind. So again, if I get to a space where something is created, right, and there are means, there's a vehicle for my kids not to have to go through the time frame it took me to get to where I want to get to and what I aspire to get to.
Right.
Then yeah, by all means.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
It's a really good point.
Yeah. But to shift gears real quick. So I wanted to kind of give your wife some flowers because, again, in the conversation we had in the prep work for this, you said you have 2 kids by 2 different women.
Yes.
Your wife is not the mom of any of those 2 kids.
Right. Met her in 2005.
But she became a mom in support of you. So your wife's name is Maria?
Maria, yep.
Maria.
Yep.
Flowers. That is awesome.
Love you, boo. Love you.
So we've had 2 shout outs to our wives. Mine's is from letting her know that I didn't text her. That I got her safely. My bad. And one is saying flowers to his wife, shout out to his wife for being an amazing mom to kids that aren't hers. And that's awesome because again it's rare. I remember thinking like it was in growing up like in the 2000s, it's like, hey, would you date a woman that has kids? Like that was the thing. Like, oh, nah, I want because I'm gonna be her dad, mother, father, and you have this whole thing. But like, that's amazing that you found a relationship.
Yep.
And this relationship is supporting all of you.
All
like
of me.
you in totality.
I'm talking about going to court with me.
That's you. That's
fighting for my kids with me.
Awesome, man.
Man, like anything you can think of, like she was down for it with no like envious motives or no like those ain't my kids.
Yeah.
Or let them stay with their moms. Nothing. It was just like, babe, whatever you want to do, I'm right here. Like it's so beautiful. And to piggyback off of that, she's in my corner with the daughter that's 20 years old that possibly is mine. So she's been tracking this daughter for like, I want to say 8 years.
Okay, so you kind of just snuck that in there. That was like a sneak tip, fam.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like slid in there on that one. That was one of the things I wanted to ask. Yeah, it was. So you said you have 2, and there's a potential third, but what does that mean, man? Like, I mean, like, I want to unpack that because, like, you snuck that in there like it was like a sneak diss, man. Like I wasn't supposed to pick it up. like nobody watching who's going to see this was like, oh, I thought he had
2, right?
The math ain't math,
right?
So let's walk us through that, man. Like,
okay,
there has to be some DNA testing. Like, where are we at? What do you mean? Where are we at with that?
So I met my wife in 2005, I think in August. I broke up with my ex before her. No, this is be 3 baby mamas if the child's mine. Broke up with her in like June 2005. Met my wife in August 2005.
Okay.
The baby was born in July 2005.
Okay.
So when me and my wife were together for a month, I'm transparent. So I just let her know like, hey, it's possible I might have a little baby, But so let me see. It's a long story. So when the girl brought the baby by, right? My ex. I kind of looked at the baby like, I don't know, it's just a little baby. I don't know. Even though we were together almost 2 years, it was some things that were happening during our relationship. I don't know, So I kind of told her that, whatever. The next day, she called me and said, you know what? That's not your baby. I just remembered. I remember how women say their cycle or their time period where
their cycle, their menstruation.
Yeah,
menstruation
she
cycle.
was basically with 2 guys, me and another guy.
Okay.
She basically was like, don't worry about it. I figured it out. It's just other guys. This is the next day after I seen the baby.
Okay.
I guess maybe she was offended hurt that I kind of looked at the babies like, I don't know. Like, we just got to see, you know?
Have you done a DNA test?
I haven't done a DNA test because I
Wait, you have or have not?
I haven't.
You have not.
No, I have not. So like 2 weeks later.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
2 weeks
I'm
later.
jumping ahead. I'm trying to get to the conclusion. I'm trying to put a bow on it. Right?
Yeah. 2 weeks later, she moved to Vegas. She was gone. My daughter was, I say she's my daughter because I'm convinced she looks just like me. And if my wife says that's my daughter.
Because you've seen like recent pictures and then like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And my wife, like I said, she has no ill will whatsoever for her to even say that's my daughter. She's been saying that's my daughter for like the last 8 years.
Okay.
My wife's been following her on social media.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's how she's been keeping
your wife is like detective.
Oh, super detective. Super
She's
detective.
like private eye.
Yes.
That's I think a lot. No, let me not make a generality, but a lot of women do have a certain skill set at discovery.
Yes.
And uncovering truth. And my wife is not any different. Her research game is strong, right? Strong. Man. I told her like another life she could have been like a research assistant and like discovered the next like genome
for the world
for like human. The whole world, Craig.
I'm telling you.
The whole world.
Right.
No, but like there's a certain scope, but I think society has taught women to protect themselves, right? And because a lot of men don't.
Right.
A lot of men do not protect women. They do not support women. And it is this really like, what can I use and abuse and take from you? So I think a lot of women by default have had to make sure that they're walking into certain situations aware, prepared, and again, safe. Safety is always key, right? Because a lot of men want to take and use, right, for their own personal goal and,
devour.
Yeah, man.
Conquer.
So I think there's skill set there. So again, so your wife has been she's seen her on social media for several years, and she's like, for sure, babe, this is your daughter.
Yeah, she's like, this is your daughter. At first, when I was still look at the pictures, I'd be like, nah, because remember I said she's 20 now, so she's been following her about maybe 10 years now. So when she was 10, I would look at the picture and I'm like, I don't know. She's like, that's your baby. I can see it all on it. I'm still like, I don't know.
She'll be 20.
She was born in...
You said July 2005?
Yeah.
So 2025. So in July next year.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because 19. So she's 19 now.
Oh, yeah.
19 now, so...
Yeah. And my son's 21 and my other daughter is 23. They're all 2 years apart.
How what's their relationship like? Well, obviously, again, you have to figure out... Okay.
Right. Yeah, they don't know her. Yeah.
All right, we gotta put families together.
Yes.
I mean, definitely can be posted if how that unfolds, man. And specifically from like the knowledge of like knowing.
Yeah, I just need to know.
If
first.
you ever, however you get to.
I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Like
position the DNA test and make sure.
I'm gonna tell you what took so long. Like I was getting closer and closer to wanting to do it and just busting out and telling her, because my wife already had access to her through social media.
Right.
They were like friends.
Okay.
Like...
Oh, she even befriended her.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they were friends, so she would see her stories.
Maria.
Yeah. Shout outs to my wife again. Yeah. So she'll always keep me up to date on everything that's going on. Birthday parties.
She probably has my social.
She might do. Hey. She know where we're at right now.
She's like, he's 5'10", 175 pounds.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful thing, but the thing that stopped me was people were like, trying to jump in at like 14, 15 years old and trying to drop a bomb on her like that can really mess with her mental. Like, just let her get through high school. You waited this long, you might as well just let her just go through high school and... You know what I mean? Like, don't drop a bomb on her.
I don't think there's any one right way to do it, man. So it's, I guess just for the sake of life, again, just getting to the point where you know and she knows, and then you can, build and repair if you have to. You know what I mean? Because again, we know brains are still being shaped. Definitely got to correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe people out there will, but I think your brain is still being shaped until the age of 25.
Oh.
So there still is just the development of like what you take in, what makes certain connections on how you process, again, conflict resolute, overcome adversity, like even your body system of like fight or flight. Like all of these things that just play a factor into.
She's grown, but she ain't grown.
Yeah. I mean, no, but you know that, man. I mean, when you reflect on who you were at that age, like we were kids, man. Like you think you are, because again, that's what the world tells you. Because there's certain things they give us in our society at 18, at 16, driving a car, 18, you know, old enough to vote, can go to, you know, the war and listen to the military. 21 is your drinking age.
Right.
You know, there's these things, right? Like when you get your credit card and you have this, there's all of these things that tell you you're supposed to be an adult, that you are an adult, but you're still a child, right? I'm 41. I feel like I didn't just get my life together, my shit together, my mental thinking until like my early mid 30s. No, not in my 20s.
No, I was gonna say like 28, 29.
Not for me, like 20 for you. Okay, for me.
No, I wouldn't say all the way.
For me,
like
either,
but it was starting.
No, for me, I had moved back to Fresno. I was working in customer service. Met my wife, living in my family home for like the first 4 years of our relationship. Don't do that. I mean, don't do that. Don't do that. Unless, again, you have amazing grade A prime parents and they support you and leave you alone.
Yeah, at the same time.
Yeah, at the same time, at the same damn time. Right. They support you and they leave you the hell alone and leave your relationship alone. But you have to cut that. I mean, you have to again untether that umbilical cord and fly. So. But that takes some time and some development. So again, for me, I don't feel like I didn't reach, you know, these beginnings of who I am into like my 30s, like my early mid 30s. Yeah. Because then I really started to have this level of independence, and it was more my independence again of my thought on things that I still was childish about. Like can't run to your parents and solve your problems. And definitely not about your relationship. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point.
You can't. You know, they can be a sounding board, but if they're neutral, there's always going to be a bias. But if they present information as being neutral, you have to really decipher, is it neutral, right? And then if it is neutral, then kudos to them, because then they're giving you that freedom for you to figure it out. And that's a big thing. I think I said that on episode 1, man. I mean, in life, we're just trying to figure it out. Yeah. And that happens organically, and you can't really force some of those things, you know? Yeah. So I hope at some point in time, you know, we can build a relationship. Yeah, we can build. Put, you know, you could know, find out specifically if it is, and confirm it, affirm it, and then affirm her, right, and then walk through that relationship. For me, I couldn't imagine that from my daughters. You know what I'm saying? Like not having this distance and this gap, but then one not knowing it, then knowing it, but then all this time that is being absent, so to speak, right? Because that's tough. It's tough for
that ain't my
kids,
style, you know.
No, it's tough. I mean, I
see how I did my first two, and
for sure,
got custody
for sure.
But with that situation, like I told you from the beginning, like the next day she called and said, "Hey, it ain't your child. I figured it out." I kind of moved on with my life. I met my wife at that moment, which was my girlfriend. Right. And I just kind of moved on until my wife found her when she was like 8, 9 years old, and started looking at the pictures. She was like, "This is your baby, period." Like, and then as the years kept going, I started to notice when she turned like 13, 14, I'm like, damn, she looks like me when I was 14.
Got it.
Right here.
Got it.
So I was convinced. But a second reason why I didn't really pursue it either, number one was I didn't want to traumatize her head. But I think the main reason is because she had a dad in her life. Okay. The so-called, the guy who's supposed to have been her dad.
So he was part of her life. He's been a part of her life.
No. So I think he was up until she was like 4 or 5.
Oh, okay.
And then they broke up.
Got it.
He moved back to Fresno. But remember I told you they all moved to Vegas?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when they broke up, he's back in Fresno, and that's it. Okay. But that's still, you know, her dad.
Got it.
That's all she knows.
Got it. Understood.
So that's another reason why I just like, you know.
Yeah, let us know, man.
I'll just wait till she turns 18.
Let us know, man. Let us know how that unfolds, man. I definitely would love to hear that part of the story. Yeah. And hopefully it ends well for everyone involved. Because it's important.
I got a lot of time to make up. I'm convinced she's mine. So I just got to do my part now and make it happen and get the test.
do that.
Yes, sir.
Do that.
Yep.
I think, yeah, for me, I mean, one more question. Religion and faith and spirituality, I know that's important to you. And I know that just from the mention
Yep.
of, getting me, a little bit of background, a little bit of bio on your life. So for you, what do you think religion is important within the family structure, right? Do you think it's important in how you teach and raise kids? Do you think that should play a part, a huge part, a small part, and how you raise your kids based off of the set of beliefs and the system that's kind of given to them, where it's given to them and them not necessarily figuring it out? But I guess what role does religion play in your life and specifically as a father, for your kids?
Okay, so for my family in particular, I think it plays a big role.
Okay.
Like piggybacking off of what you said earlier about yourself, as far as you got to get yourself right first, right?
Yeah.
So that's with me. Like, I had to get myself right first, because before religion, I wasn't the best role model either. Like, I always had good intentions, obviously. I always loved my kids. But, I wasn't the best role model.
Okay.
Just like, for example, Charles Barkley was a great basketball player, but he had that commercial saying he's not a role model. I don't know if you remember that commercial.
I do.
So I can be a good dad without being a good role model. I wanted to be a good role model as well. So that's where religion played a part for me. I remember, and piggybacking again off my wife, I remember when I was searching for God back in like 2000.
Maria gets flowers.
Yep.
Flowers.
2012, I think. I was going to this Christianity church, and she grew up Catholic.
Okay.
But she supported me, and she started going to church too a little bit, and we had K-Love bumping in the car. I was done with like regular music and all that.
Okay.
Like, we was just on that K-Love.
Was it secular? Yeah. Christian versus like secular and non-secular, right? Secular and non-secular.
Right, exactly. Worldly music. So I was done with that. And she supported me, and it was beautiful because I was on that high of Christianity. But after a while, I got back on my regular routine. So I would go to church on Sunday. I even got one of my boys in church, and he grew up atheist.
Okay.
Where he didn't believe in no higher power, obviously.
Yeah.
But right after church, we'll go straight to the liquor store. We get like a 12-pack of beer, get some smokes. You know what I'm saying?
Got it.
And after a while, my mentality is still searching for God, and I had such great times in church, but I was like, this ain't it either. Because if I'm going to church and I'm getting the word and I'm having a good time, but immediately going to the liquor store right after, this ain't it. This can't be it. So I'm still searching. I run across Islam. Ever since Islam's a disciplined religion. Like, and this ain't no shade on no other religion, no Christians or anything like that.
Speak your truth, huh?
Right. But there's a lot of Christians that, still go to the club, still drink. Like, Islam, it's no drinking. There's no smoking. There's no clubbing. There's no glancing at a woman. There's no... I like this part of the segment, I ain't gonna lie. Because this is what's within me. There's no lying. There's no eating pork, which is in the Bible as well. There's total knowledge in Islam. Islam tells you to seek for knowledge every single day of your life. It's no, I found God in there and I'm good now. No, you got to keep searching within Islam, obviously. But we read both books as well.
The Bible and the
Quran, yes, okay. Yes. And a lot of Christians, they won't even dare look at a Quran. It's just the Bible.
I think just any religion. I think that's the disconnect. I think again, it's well versed to be knowledgeable.
Yes.
In general.
Yes,
right?
in general.
It's Christian, Catholic, right. Muslim.
I agree.
Hindu, Buddhist. Mm-hmm. Right, like it's just being knowledgeable.
Yes.
Right, and
that's what God wants.
And I think that's the process of life and discovery, right? And different people find God for the wrong reasons, right? Yes. And obviously God isn't always named God, right? Across the board. Right. The way that I look at it is from a religious perspective. Mm-hmm. If I grew up in a country that was predominantly Arabic, I would believe a very specific set of things based off the religion that dominates the cultures. Correct? That's geography. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Like if I put Steven anywhere else in the world, parts of Africa, right, parts of the Middle East, I most likely would not be Christian. Not how I was raised. I was raised in a Christian household.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Geography plays a really big part to the dominance of given belief system and ideology, and especially in the United States, because again, a lot of that was coming from the crown, and then shifted over here to the United States in the formation of it. So that's why religion was put into the context of politics. So that was a really key piece of just understanding what you need to understand. In life, you seek information, you seek knowledge, you seek the ability to know what is a truth, know facts from opinions, to decode if something is used as a parable, as a metaphor, as an allegory. There's a life lesson that's taught in that, right? That's no different than, the Greeks having a structure for their system of beliefs, right? And how they had things that governed people, and there was a structure. You give people an ideology and a belief system. That's a way of part of it is a system of control if it's misused, right?
Yeah.
If it's used by certain people that abuse that power and that kind of control on having minds that they can kind of shape. But yeah, I think any religion would be doing themselves a disservice if they're not
limiting yourself,
knowing
yeah,
exactly, not studying other religions, for sure. Because a lot of it is still kind of in the core things, right? The core ideology of who you are and what you try to pursue in life, what you try to attain, things that are purposeful, right? And like finding things that are destiny built. And then that's when a lot of the other things get into all these little sub factions and thought processes, right? Like, do you believe in fate? Like you said, for who was atheist, right?
Yeah, he was atheist.
That could be based off his experiences growing up in life or what he saw, right? And things that kind of shaped the way of how he thought about that, like saying, God never intervened in my life and these things that I've gone through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of that positions people in different spaces, and that's a macro thing to understand. But going back to what I mentioned, I think any religion, any person that is a part of religion would be dropping the ball if they don't look into other religions and belief systems, and then find the ways that they connect more than the disconnect.
Yeah.
Right. More than the things that say this is me versus you.
Exactly.
That's how I see it anyway.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not right. I'm just this is how I live my life. So
I agree with that. To me, people try to find the disconnects, and I try to find the connects. But in the end, there's only one God, and that's what we all should understand.
I know I didn't make me. And I know my parents didn't make themselves. And I know their parents didn't make themselves. And so on and so forth, right?
That's
the whole
microphones didn't make itself.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole creation evolution thing. And then we're so big on just kind of deciphering it. They all could be one and the same. God could be the greatest scientist and the greatest evolutionist in the entire world. You know what I'm saying? Like and they don't have to be as far as creation, right? It wasn't like just the fact of like it just, we have to make them separate because we need to debate about something and somebody has to be right. Like, why is that the conversation, right?
Right.
But yeah.
All praises to God, man.
Yeah. That's it on my side. I mean, anything else you want to let the people know about you or about this or just the experience? Like, how'd you feel about today?
Felt pretty good.
Felt good?
Yeah, it felt really good. I was really nervous, doing this because honestly, I'm just I'm a really laid back, private type of guy. So say if I was like for example, say if I was rich and famous, right?
Okay.
The heart of me would be one of those rich and famous, low key type of guys. Because you got those guys, and then you got the guys that are really out in the scenes. I might look like I'm out in the scenes, but I'm not.
Wait, hold on.
You know what I mean? Because perception
I'm glad
is not
you said it. I'm glad you said it because there are the things that are visible, and you're like, and I'm like, ooh.
Right, exactly.
I'm glad you put that out there. Yeah. I'm glad you cleared that up for the
Absolutely.
people that are gonna watch it.
I promise you, I'm really just like low key, and I'm just like in another world. I'll be a hippie.
Okay.
Like a real
live
hippie. Like,
no doubt.
I love people. And I love being as simple as possible. But, you know, I do know how to, what's that phrase people say? I know how to clean up, you know what I mean? It's another phrase people say. But other than that, I'm just low key guy. So
Yeah.
this experience was great. I felt like I got a lot off my chest through this.
Cool.
My wife told me to kind of use this as maybe like a therapeutic session.
I don't know if it was that. You have to tell me that on a reflection.
Right.
But no, I appreciate the feedback for sure.
Yeah, because I'm kind of like quiet.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Like, so.
Well, I mean, it's
a lot
good
of stuff that I said today, I never really said.
Okay.
Besides to my wife.
Okay. Well,
So
I'm glad we could be that space for you, man. I think a big part of me creating the space is just the ability that everybody's story is relevant and everybody's story is unique to them, and why not tell it, you know?
Absolutely.
And specifically under the topic of parenting and, you know, my audience, stay-at-home dads and working moms and single parents. You know, I think a big part of the ability to fall into certain categories, and you know, it's bigger than us. You know, it's bigger than us. Me being a parent is the most selfless thing I think anybody can do, because it's not about me anymore, right? And I think that's where the struggle happens, like when we're trying to raise our kids and try to go back and forth with them on some of this power struggle.
Not trying to live through them. Some parents.
Some do, yeah. But I think just like, again, the power struggle, like you want them to do certain things at certain times, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes that just doesn't always work out,
Right.
And I have this thing that I say I want to win the day, and right now I think I may have to like downscale that to like win the moment, like because I don't win all the time with my kids,
Right.
and like, you know, I fail in the moments of like trying to reach them and connect with them in certain points. And I'm glad and thankful that, you know, when I'm not, my wife can, and when she can't, I can, you know.
Right.
But no, I think everybody has a story to tell, man, and that I think people can learn from other people, and part of that is just talking about it and giving them time to do that, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, so thank you for this, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for this, for sure.
If I come on again, this is what I want to do. This would be a great episode for the next one. If I get in contact with my daughter, right?
Yeah.
We both come on here and air out everything that we missed out on. That I think that'll be.
We have a couple seats.
Yeah.
We have a couple empty chairs.
That'll be
one right here, one on your side.
Yeah.
Camera can't see it, but yeah. I think that you have a space, man. If you're a guest of the pod, you're the first guest. You're kicking off this kind of format. The first episode was just me directly in front of a cam, but so but I wanted to open up to the community. So yeah, definitely, man. From that perspective, feel free. And you know, if you know of anybody that also wants to get on, and that falls into, you know, my demo, you know, father, mother, parent, stay-at-home dad, working, other, if they fall into that category, then yeah, definitely, and you know, I'd love to have them on the show, and then we can, you know, walk through their journey as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Anything else on my side? So Diaper Bag Dad podcast viewers, subs, it's time to go. But before I kick off, soon, like real soon, I will be starting something called Simple as Sundays. And that serves as an easy, single-minded, single-focused parenting tip to set the tone for the new week. And these parenting tips, of course, they will drop on Sundays, hence the name. But it'll be a reminder of the grace I think we need to operate in for our kids and for ourselves. And even if you heard the tips before, I think it's a weekly opportunity to practice mindset and being mindful of the mental health we operate in, so that we can be the best versions of ourselves when we engage with our kids. So tune in and get your mind right. If you vibe with this podcast, like, comment, subscribe at Diaper Bag Dad. If you want to see what else I'm up to or get in touch, feel free to go to www.p6.media. I will have a new website coming soon. That is which will be www.p6.com. And that would be PEASIX.com. I'll walk you through that when it happens. And thanks for watching. I'm super appreciative of you all out there, and you're helping me live a dream. But
thank you for having me on, man. I'm just a regular
but I'm awake.
Joe, but hey, I appreciate you.
But your name is John.
but my name is John.
See what I did there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate the time, man.